auditorium, and it shows the deterioration in time, the number of students interested to do things. But it is interesting, a few students of my class showed up here. I don't know how they know I'm giving a presentation, but somehow they are here, and thank you for those kids. But the most important thing is that these kids sits around me. I'm always with the student all the time, and I have nothing better to do rather than pushing them in and out. So actually they told me that they want me to give some presentation because of some reason, which is, they are running some cell, e-cell and all these stuffs. So I said, okay, I'll give a lecture. So I decided to pick a subject which is pretty much a manufacturing, not an Ola company, not a Uber company. Let me understand the meaning of those. The meaning is very different. Every time you go into Ola or a Uber, your money goes from A to B, B to C. But your asset value of the country doesn't go up and eventually lands up to a people you see next to Shankar Bazaar, where their earning per month is about 5,000 rupees per month. It all looks good by the name of Ola, Uber and all these stuffs, but really it's massaging your black money or white money from A to B, B to C in the country. But one of the things, the meaning to me, that entrepreneur is not to take money from you and put it in the bank. Is to make the life of the people much better than what you see today. So that's where my presentation starts. Is that very clear? It is very clear. My presentation is not making a Uber, Ola, writing a program, make things happen. Can we get asset of our country from somewhere else and bring it here? I give a good example. Everybody loves Apple computer and Apple phone. Am I right or wrong? Right? There is not a single manufacturing plant for Apple in the USA. There's a whole big building. They are getting billions of dollars in their bank. Their total net worth maybe $200 to $300 billion. One company, which is equivalent to the amount of dollar and rupees we have printed. When Modi discarded all the money, it was $200 billion. The equivalent money one company owns, not even a single facility of manufacturing plants. So that's another kind of entrepreneurship where people come up with some clever technique. Let somebody else do the work, we'll get the money, we pay 30% tax, and that part of the money government will give it to the poor people, they will happily feel. The average income from the United States is about $52,000 a year. An average income here is about $1,200 maybe per year, but they are earning 50 times more money than us per year doing nothing. How it happened? So you could be, that is a real entrepreneurship, doing nothing, making money, making your asset larger in the country. Apple is a good example. Whereas Intel has something to show. They are a technology company. They build things by hand, making things dirty, get the thing going, and the revolution happens. Right? It's easy to say that our mission for landing in a moon crashed, but you know what? It's a lot of good work. Let it fail. There's nothing to be laughing about it. And I was very happy to see in the picture that he was giving a hug to that guy, whatever his name was, who's the director of the ISRO. So failure is the success, and Intel does it day in and day out. So that kind of entrepreneurship I'm going to talk about here, not the other kind what Apple does. For that, you need a different talent, which probably I don't have. My talent is build things in my hand and make it dirty. So let's start with that title. So I gave a name. Some of the most complex work people have done in CPU world to generate an understanding of the meaning of the word entrepreneurship. That's my present. For related to the manufacturing. Entrepreneurship, a learning curve, and I'm going to give a presentation related to the manufacturing, not related to how to butter somebody's head and bring money in the country, like Apple is doing. But both are powerful, technologically wise. It's very important that you are smart in all directions. Since I'm not smart in that part, I'm going to talk about this. Next fall. The way I will describe how people are involved in various tasks and how they work together to do it. If today you drop a bomb in Japan, there will be no CPU will come out tomorrow. So but if you drop a bomb in Bangalore, India, there will be CPU coming out next day. Why? If you go back Penang, Malaysia and drop a bomb there, there will be no CPU for maybe 2 years or 3 years. So connectivity of the technology of Intel company deals with a number of people infinite. They buy pen, paper, pencil, iron implanter, you name it all. Gold, lead, tin, wires, you name it. A big machine for power, a big machine for purification of water. The amount of water it requires to build a little silicon wafer is same as the amount of water going through the river Ganges. You probably do not know. A very complex task, from manufacturing eventually to put it in your lap, a single laptop that you are happy with. How it all happened? Billions of people working, they all work together. Intel will never claim I did it ourselves or I did it myself. Never will claim. And that is another entrepreneurship. How to work with the people around the world and build things and still bring asset to your country. Objective is to bring the asset of your country better than what it was before. Not taking the money from Uber and Ola and fighting the taxi driver why it is 200 rupees versus 300 rupees. All it does is manipulating your 200 rupees, is not building anything for you. So every little thing, so start to do a good job on manufacturing or anything. Start with the problem description. Most of the people in this country has a problem with the definition of the meaning of that. They always talk about solution. They don't know the problem description. The most fundamental understanding is the problem description. If you don't define that right, you don't have a solution. You could fail in your solution, but that problem description would take you to a place where we will eventually conquer this universe. That's the most fundamental in the world. And you have to solve it. How? Not by hiding under the bed, by talking, speaking, all the knowledges you have. If you don't have it, ask somebody. Let you all work together to make it happen. It is not mine or yours. First build, then you fight. There's no big deal about it. So this is where it all starts, that no solutions, first know the problem. So I'm going to show you only the problems and how you have today laptop in your lap. I'm going to show you that. That example will give you some thought process, and believe me, you'll remember it the day when you die, and absolutely guaranteed after this presentation. Next one, please. The fundamental problem reference to the high power CPU, let me explain you the meaning of it, since you are a layman, like me, but I have to went through the learning, you didn't. High power is what? You saw, you buy a light bulb, 60 watt. Have you seen that? 60 watt light bulb? You buy. Light bulb doesn't work, you go buy 100 watt, 60 watt. And you know how hot it gets, because you have to take a little napkin or a little cloth and you turn around because it's very hot. A CPU burns exactly same amount of power in a place which is 0.1 inch by 0.1 inch. Understand?
Yes.
1 inch is this much, divide by 10 part, 0.1 inch is pumping 100 watt. A light bulb is this weak. But it doesn't burn. Magic. You still put it in your lap and it still works. Right? You do not have a fan next to it blowing at a very high speed to cool it down. So then you will have a problem in your ear, sound. Right? In our lab, we got 20,000 fan and they are working and they make sound. When you talk with the engineers, you don't understand what he's saying, then you go home and sleep and have a nice time. So you need to solve that problem too. It's a part of the problem. So you can't just go back, take a laptop, you have a laptop, and now you're blowing air on the top of it. Doesn't work that way. That's 100 watt. A CPU works at 100 watt part. So I'm going to only talk about the problem today. I'm not going to talk about solution. I'll give you some, but not it all. But you still have a laptop. How people can do it? I'll give you some more example. So that's called thermal management. Then there's a thing called electrical management. What does it mean? You might have seen in your house, when you turn the refrigerator on, all of a sudden the light gets dim. Have you seen it? If that happens in a silicon chip, your silicon chip only works at 1 volt, plus or minus 5% tolerance, or maybe 10%, a good company. So it will work from 0.9 volt to 1.1 volt. But you have seen when the refrigerator gets turned on, right, and the light gets dim, a refrigerator is 1000 watt, and this light gets dim, so voltage dropped. Lot drop, not very much, maybe 20% it dropped, 30% it dropped. So you have a 10 computer sitting here, 1000 watt, your laptop is 100,000 watt. So 1 million laptop, 1 megawatt. And definitely there's a 1 million laptop here. There's a lot of power. The amount of power you consume, which is 3-year data that I knew it, I calculated it. There's a place here called in Agartala called Palatana. The whole power station power will be sucked up just to turn all this laptop on. I'm giving you some perspective of the life, which you probably do not know. So that's the amount of power you're pumping left and right, and if it gets dim, your CPU will get locked up. You have seen many times, you keep pressing buttons, it gets locks. Why? Because you pump too much power. Every time you're giving an execution to do, it is pumping more power. Because it has to crunch a lot of memories. That's all it does. And computer gets locks. Why? Because of the voltage drop. Second problem. Third problem, mechanical management. You cannot even hard drive the way it's spinning. Did you hear too much sound? It's spinning at how many RPM? Read it. Thousands of RPM. You can't even imagine how high speed those disk moves. And those are memory, which is very low frequency memory. So problem is then there's a sound, stress. You putting so many screw, nuts, bolt, it could crack. Have you seen the complexities? Solder here, solder there, wire coming out, wire coming in. Some of them will break. We can't even make one plug right. It always breaks. Have you seen it? If something breaks, your guy electrician comes, you give him $20, he screws it in, and the next day it breaks again. This can't break. It has to last 7 years. Reliability. So noise, anchoring, stresses, cracking, these are the problems. You can't simply build one unit and say, Professor, I did my job, I should get my PhD degree. I would say, go to hell. Why? The part of the reason is you have not achieved anything. Something works miraculously does not necessarily mean you get your degree. All it means you happen to be lucky. But can you make it day in and day out? You try 100 times, you will have 100 units built. Then Intel will ask a question, can you have all this method put together? I can make 16 million or 100 million unit a month. Can you do it? 100 million unit of chip I want to build. The amount of silicon chip of that 0.1 inch that Intel sells, if you put all of them together in a plate, it will go around the earth 10 times. How many times?
10 times.
That's right. Maybe more. Is it a joke? It has a capability, it's a huge amount of entrepreneurship, the knowledge, innovation, time, man hours it requires. Sometimes man hour doesn't do anything. You can work hard, but you can't even solve the problem. Is that clear? That's very important to understand the problem. So this is what all the problem, I'm going to show you one at a time to see what Intel has gone through to put the laptop in your lap. Where you can make your boyfriend next to sit to you and show him, or your girlfriend, show him all the pictures nicely, and your lap is not going to be burnt. Pumping how many watt? 100 watt. It's not a joke. And it's in your lap, everybody enjoying picture, whole family member. And that technology requires innovation and entrepreneurship and a good people, good mind, not only giving a pep talk lecture in a class and solving a mathematics problem, say go home. It needs a different innovation, different learning, which will eventually get to the point where you will be successful in your life. And I'm glad these kids came here, at least this many. Hopefully one will be doing good in his life. The first year student, it is sad they are not here. You will not hear this lecture even by paying a money. I get $800 an hour to get paid when I give a lecture, for your information, for 1 hour. So this sad is 1,000, 4,000 students, not a single student here. It is so disgusting. But anyway, it goes negative of the presentation I gave about, I think 6 years back, one time, thousands of people. Even in ECFA University, everybody there. Any university. Let's go to the next one. So let's give some number here. What is the problem that I described in terms of manufacturability? Alright, chip works at 1 volt power supply. 1 volt, because a silicon has a nanotechnology, means there is a connection between the 2 points, which I taught in my class. I made a boo-boo out of that one day. I couldn't even draw the picture right? Kit and a CMOS technology, which is a 7 nanometer, 5 nanometer technology. And if you put too much voltage there, you'll get a burn. Because so small distance, right? If you take a little current and try to put it in your battery, it will just burn. So the voltage is 1 volt. It can be 220 volt. If you make it 1.5 volt, the chip will burn out. If you make 0.5 volt, chip will stop working. It's trying to take some data from the memory, it will stop it. So it has to be 1 volt plus or minus 5% tolerance. You can look at the data book, it will tell you that. Sudden current drawn by the device. I told you, as soon as the refrigerator get on, your light get dim. So a sudden current, all of a sudden you started pressing some buttons, and you started pumping more rushing currents, CPU working, and the voltage will drop. Once it drops, light will dim and CPU will stop. So all of a sudden you start pumping a current. It's called sleep mode. The CPU is coming out from the sleep mode to an active mode, and vice versa. When the refrigerator goes off, you can see all of a sudden, you shouldn't observe it, you can see the light glow a little bigger. The voltage goes up. And that's also bad, because nanotechnology will burn. 1.2 volt will burn. So 5% is 50 millivolt tolerance you have. 1 volt, 10%, 100 millivolt. 5%, 50 millivolt. That's so little. Total thermal power is 100 watt. I told you it is pumping 100 watt. area, maximum area where it is pumping that much of power, I said 0.1 inch. There are some device about 0.3 inch by 0.3 inch. Can I get the water please? 0.3 inch by 0.3 inch. So 1 inch is this much, 0.3 is 1/3 of that. See, in that little place, it is drawing power. How much? 100 watt. It pumps 100 amp of current. I give you now one good example. You can go back and measure the resistance of a wire. If it is a 0.1 inch, 0.1 ohm, 100 times 0.1 will be 10 volt. So it will work. Your tolerance is 50 millivolt. So you cannot just simply connect a wire. 1 volt will be dropped right across the resistance. So 100 amp, you need a micro ohm. So how can you connect a chip with a wire with a 1 micro ohm? So that distance is 0. You got to sit right on the top of it with your plug, right, to make it work. So it is not going to work. You understand the meaning of 100 ohm? A little wire, copper wire, you connect. If it is a 0.1 or 0.01 ohm, it's going to be 1 volt drop. So you have to be micro ohms worth of micro. How can you make a micro ohm? My CPU is here, board is this big, my power supply is over there, I got to bring it in and connect it. Puzzle. These are the technology people has developed to solve it, what you have in your lab. The power density, if you calculate the total power by area, 1.72 watt per millimeter square. Roughly know the number. The maximum temperature a silicon can handle, because as I said, there is a narrow channel. One n-dope, p-dope, p-dope. The distance is nanometer. If the temperature is very large, it will get bigger, it will diffuse. Remember I taught in the class? Diffusion with the temperature, and then they will get short. The maximum temperature those chips can withhold 90 to 120 degrees centigrade. If it's more than that, all the channel will be short. There will be no more nanometer. All nanometer distances that you build in a silicon chip, they'll all will wipe off to a short circuit. So that's another problem. So that's thermal problem. This is a power problem. And now it is all confused. We are all confused. The fundamental physics which controls, look at now here is your smartness. I am a physics major studying general relativity, studying particle physics, studying quantum chromodynamics, group theory, Lie group transformation, you name it all. So many mathematics. You can't even comprehend in your life the kind of mathematics I could do. I don't think there's anybody in this whole country probably. I could do so many mathematics. But the most fundamental thing that you need to solve all this problem is these two. Lenz's law and thermal conductivity equation, you remember? K times theta 1 minus theta 2 times D. Do you remember that? Yes. I wrote it that way. So the power, the junction temperature inside the chip, that cannot be more than 90 degrees. Right there. Or 120 degrees. That one, an outside temperature is ambient. Ambient is right here. That's 25 degrees. So 120 minus 25, let's say 125 minus 100, and the power is 100. So this value is roughly 1. So you need to make sure this number is how much? 1. 125. So roughly 25 outside temperature, 100, put 100 watt power, it should be 1. Do you know how difficult the number 1 is? Impossible. 1 number is so high, to build anything is very difficult. I'll go to the next one. So these are the problem description. You are clear here, right? We can't pump too much power because it's going to heat up, channels are so small, it's going to short out. If you try to do too much hard work, the power drops, CPU stops every day, then you shut it off and turn on again. It's called sleep mode, or you reset your button. Or you need to connect a wire to the power supply at a distance of 0. So you have to sit with the power supply on the top of the chip on that 0.1 inch by 0.1 inch. Our back is bigger than that. You can't sit on it. So how you solve this problem? Next one, please. Next one. It's stuck. Huh? You're not working any hard. Okay, let's go back bigger one. Okay, here you go. Where we are right now. Okay. Now let's look at it. So we talked about power supply tolerance, 5%. So 1 volt can handle 0.05 volt. Then from there you can calculate that. Remember I said LDIDT? So if you have a 3 gigahertz clock or 6 gigahertz clock, you know you buy 3 gigahertz, right? Every day. Did you see it in the data book? Did you buy a computer?
Yes, sir.
You see 3 gigahertz, right? 4 gigahertz. So to 3 gigahertz about 300 picosecond, roughly 333. Or 6 will be 150 picosecond. So then you go back LDIDT, that's a voltage drop, delta V. By Lenge's law, the one the light dims, the value of L comes out 1.6 picohenry. What does the number means? Is it possible to build anything like that? You understand? Simpler question. 50% tolerance, I got a number L equal to 1.6 picohenry. Can you build it? Answer is very difficult. Impossible number. Why? If you pump 100 amps of current through that 1.6 pico, you say you build it. Something, build it. So small number. And you pump 100 amp current through it. You can only boil 4 picogram of water. What is picogram? Minus 12 gram. Can anybody measure those? No. So that means it is so small inductance, it only holds a certain amount of energy. That energy is screwing my whole CPU. Energy which is stored in a little coil of 1.6 picohenry. And when it goes dumps that energy, it has to dump somewhere, right? That's why the voltage glitches. When it dumps it, that can only boil 4 picogram of water. Nothing. Then how can you build 1.6 picohenry? How people managing it? We'll talk about it. Problem 1. If you connect, so how do you get that? I told you silicon is 0.1 inch by 0.1 inch. If you connect 30,000 watts of 1 inch length, like that, 30,000, you might get that. You might get that 1.6 picohenry. But there is no place to put 30,000 watts. It's so little. You know 30,000 watts? You connect. Like you screw it in the lab. Have you seen it? You know how you do your diode, right? You have 2 diodes. You're looking at your face, you screw it in, put in a PCB board. In that place that you put the 2 diode in a breadboard, you see the breadboard?
Yes,
0.1 inch, you got to put there 30,000 wire in between. Understand the problem? Is it very clear? So this is what people have solved in this universe. It is not an entrepreneurship, it is not an innovation, it is not, I don't know what the hell it is. I only know it's a huge man hour, man month, and nobody could ever claim I did it all. Nobody could say it. It is not like a Ola company. You drive an Ola, make money and give from here to there and go eat chicken curry and land rice. It's not that. It's much more complex. Intelligent people that you require, they don't have to have an education. They don't have to have an education. But intelligent people who are able to put a label and think through the problem, not solution. Most of the time, whenever you go for an interview, if you give a solution, you don't have a job. Because the guy is asking a question because he has a problem. You can't simply answer. You are not, everybody